an integration movement of sovereign states. Often political leaders agree to things at the regional level that then become quite difficult to implement at home, not helped by the oppositional nature of our political systems. But without having that kind of forced implementation from the centre, it's very, very difficult to operationalise.
All right. Can I see another question? In the green right at the back there.
Yes. It's a comment and not a question. It has to do with the notion that has been repeated about too much poverty. I suspect that the issue is actually not too much poverty, but it's actually the privatization of wealth. And if you deal with the privatization of wealth, the problem of poverty is going to be solved if we strengthen our... And the last point that I want to make is this. Sir Hilary spoke to the fact that we need to continue the revolution that was started in Haiti. One of the significant aspects of that revolution was the attention paid to the majesty of the spirit. None of the presentations that I've heard this morning have acknowledged that in the Caribbean, there is considerable attention paid to the various God that the Caribbean peoples worship. And unless that is converged up to, we are going to have a problem with leadership missing the boat as far as Caribbean people is concerned.
Thanks very much for that comment. Have we got any questions?
Yep, Mark.
Stage left?
Yes, stage left. Okay, Reggie, yes.
I just want to throw out a comment and then ask a question. My comment is with reference to the concept of convergence, integration, the Caribbean Court of Justice. We've heard some discussion on it today. It is one of our genuinely original institutions that is not derived out of our colonial legacy. We have created it. It exists. It has a very objective, independent structure that promotes and appoints the judges. It is insulated from political interference because of that, and it is also insulated from the vicissitudes of economic lack of dependence because of the trust fund that supports it. Trinidad and Tobago is the natural leader of the Caribbean, and I'm very happy to see that on this subject of convergence, that is being heralded by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. My question is, when will Trinidad and Tobago lead the thrust to accede to the full jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice? Thank you.
So that's a question directed at you, Minister Dukaran, I think.
No, it's not.
I was reminding the audience that this afternoon we have a very high-level forum which will involve prime ministers to discuss many issues, and I will direct this question there.
Well,
but I also wish to indicate that Trinidad and Tobago position on this matter has been well articulated over time, and as of now, the fundamental issue is to win the confidence of the people in arriving at a new institution for the purposes of dispensation of justice. And winning the confidence of the people is a critical aspect of our democratic system.
Thank you. Well, very skillfully handled. Table
13.
Sorry? Yes.
Thank you and good morning. Just a few questions for the panel across the board.
Sorry, could we stick to one question because we're short on time?
It will be one question, but it will incorporate everything. We're here to discuss and to disrupt. Please permit me. I listened to the presentation on the Alliance of the Pacific and everything that it entailed. My question is, why do we need the formation of so many different alliances, different groupings, different frameworks that all get towards the same goal. Why have we not seen the need in this whole talk of convergence to concretize our commitment to achieving these goals by concentrating our efforts, limited human resources, limited financial resources, towards more concrete and more limited organizations? Because the duplication, the redundancy, and all of this obviously have not met the desired goals. Concerning Cuba and being seen as a threat, I don't think we in the Caribbean should view Cuba as a threat. Why did we not see Cuba as a threat when Cuba provided all this assistance over a number of years? When Cuba provided health care, redeeming eyesight, education, and all of that. If Cuba was not a threat then, why should we succumb to the propaganda emanating from elsewhere to make us believe that Cuba is a potential threat? Cuba should be seen not as a threat, but an impetus to us in the Caribbean to strengthen our structures, to take advantage of the opportunities that will present themselves even from Cuba opening up. And the last question for the Canadian gentleman who spoke about convergence and Canada intending to converge with the Caribbean. From what I understood, that convergence was tantamount to aid being provided by Canada. Aid for the policemen, aid for this, and aid for that. In all of this, is that convergence tantamount to aid a reflection of the needs of the Caribbean or a reflection of the priorities of Canada for the region? I thank you.
Well, Henri Paul, would you like to take that question?
Thank you. Thank you for the comment. Is this microphone working? We don't conceptualize this as aid or as assistance. We conceptualize it as collaboration between Canada and the Caribbean. That's the concept, and it takes many, many forms. So that would be my comment on this.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
Hi.
Yes,
Hi,
over
yes.
there.
Hi, good morning, colleagues. Am I recognized? Yes? I'm just repeating my colleague's question very briefly, and it's directed to the CARICOM Secretary General. From your perspective, how can we generate the right political leadership and will needed to drive the ongoing convergence process forward?
Can you go a little slower, please? I have difficulty hearing you.
Okay, let me repeat it very slowly for you. From your perspective, how can we generate the right political leadership and will needed to drive the ongoing convergence process forward?
Whenever I hear political will, I always reflect on the fact that, I guess I've been very privileged to sit in the inner councils of our heads of government. I have no doubt in my mind that the political will is there. Our heads of government derive their power and authority from their constituents at home, and you'd be surprised to know how much pushback they get when certain decisions are made. Let me give you some examples. We have trade agreements. We've heard of Cuba, we've heard of the Dominican Republic. For me, the natural convergence space for us in CARICOM starts with that geographic space. That would include the Dominican Republic, that would include Cuba, that would include some of the OCTs, Curacao, St. Martin, who have expressed interest in becoming associate members of CARICOM. And you'll be surprised the pushback we're getting in trying to develop those trading relations with the Dominican Republic and Cuba. And that pushback is coming from the private sector. That's one. And of course, the negotiators take that into account. The second thing is a thing, and we've heard it, I think it was mentioned a while ago, that something that the people of the region want as a tangible sign of benefit of Caribbean integration of CARICOM is the ability to work and travel. And that's what we've been promoting. I have taken the opportunity, since I've become Secretary General, to visit every single country on more than one occasion and have small private group sessions with the youth and with other interested parties. Mm-hmm. And you'd be amazed at what you hear. The colleague showed the slide of Cuba with the Jamaica and Cuba and job expanding and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how threatened some CARICOM nationals feel about free movement. They want to move, but they don't want anybody to move in to take their jobs. And I think the process has to start by educating a constituent population on integration. We need to bring the people, we need to integrate the people and have them see the benefit of integration up. and not just always talking about integration from an economic standpoint, from a trade standpoint. My question on convergence is, what are we talking about? Is it economic convergence, or is it convergence that cuts across other issues? I think if you broaden the concept, a question was asked about the Pacific, the integration of the Pacific. It's an economic approach. And I think that if we broaden the concept of convergence to allow for people to integrate and to sell that to the people, to sell that to the constituents, because that's what politicians listen to, their constituents. So if as constituents we are convinced that we're going to benefit from this integration arrangement, this convergence, be it within CARICOM or the wider Caribbean or further afield in CELAC, for instance, then I think we'll get it. So the political will, yes, but the political will responds to a reality of going to elections every 5 years. That is a reality that we have. And how do you address that? And these are some of the issues that where I sit and I'm confronted with that I have to take on board. So I'm going outside of my line, outside of my box, and making contact directly with the people. And I'm using not only personal contact means, but through the social media and otherwise.
Thank you. I think we probably have room for perhaps one or two more questions. The red shirt over there.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I have a few comments to make. One with Sir Hilary. He said we have the lowest rate for persons reaching higher level education. However, I think that I half agree with that, because if people aren't going to tertiary education, it's my choice not to, and it's because I wanted to start a business. As an entrepreneur, I don't need to have a degree to start a business. Another thing is that we have a lot of good people in Trinidad, and we give titles to some of our ministers of honorable, the title honorable. But this morning, coming down in the car, and yesterday Dr. Clement, I think, spoke about it, including opposition in decision-making, etc. Yet today they're going to try and pass a no-confidence vote in our opposition leader. How is that honorable? Another thing which I'd like to mention is that nowhere in this forum have we included, yes, we have all our stakeholders here, but have we included 1% of our civil society which is disabled? Do we have any visually impaired persons? Do we have any persons who have hearing impairment within this forum to drive the Caribbean forward? We aren't getting those opinions. Another thing is about convergence now, and this is to the panel. Why has nobody ever thought of using sport as a convergent mechanism? Because we have the West Indies Cricket Board, but that's just one sport. Within the CARICOM region, we have that. But why don't we have Olympic athletes who are winning gold medals within the Caribbean, but there's no facility to be able to train these athletes within the Caribbean. They're going away to America and England to train. Why is it that we can't foster our own talent in the Caribbean and have representation part of the Caribbean at these international games? And I like how Mr. Normandine spoke about the Pan Am Games. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Mark, can I help you very quickly to recognize the lady in blue at the back who has from the very beginning had a question, just as you deal with whatever you have before you.
Good morning. My name is Noel Jackson from the National Workers' Movement of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I welcome this forum, but I get the impression that most of us are here to change the oil in the engine and probably change the plugs and do some